Chapter 1. Simonstown, Union of South Africa, 1920s. Lou! Infant waves curled towards me over the crystal sand. Footsteps thundered from behind. I reached out both hands to seize the oncoming water with its lace of bubbles and fell forward. Cold green liquid gurgled into my mouth, lapped at my forehead, and just as it started to trickle into my ears, a pair of familiar hands grabbed me around the middle and pulled me clear. Lou! My pa, Solly, hoisted me over his shoulder and gave me a brisk pat on the back. You can't swim before you can walk. From the vantage point of his arms, I could tell that the sea stretched in white-edged ridges until it collided with the mountains, or raced impatiently around them to merge with the sky overhead. I'd already met the sky. I saw its blue dome every day when Ma put me down to rest beneath the palm tree outside our front door. This sea was far more exciting than the sky. I twisted in my father's arms and yearned downwards. Solly looked back triumphantly at my mother, Sheila, sitting cross-legged on a blanket well up the beach, and waved the arm that was not holding me from plunging back. She wants more. Unlike me, Seaforth Beach was shy. It hid between massive grey boulders rounded like eggs thrust up from the ocean by some giant divine fist. Boys, including my best friend, Pete Philander, used to scramble up their smooth sides and do risky belly flops into the shallows, praying that the water was deep enough to cushion their fall. But before the shock of cold sea water, the best thing about Seaforth was its sand. You could make perfect 5-finger impressions of your hand, or your rounded tummy and its sparkling skin. It even tasted pleasantly gritty. No, Louise! Ma scrambled to unload my fist. At the high tide mark, the sand gave way to a crust of shells. When no one was watching, I'd hide one in my pocket and press it to my ear in the night to bring back the rush of the waves. It took 20 minutes to walk to the beach on my father's shoulders from the family cottage on Ricketts Terrace. Careful, that child! Ma shouted as I craned dangerously around to watch her panting in Pa's wake. Motorcars were only for rich white folk who drove from Cape Town to gawk at our views. Everyone else walked, whether it was to the beach or the dockyard where Pa worked, or up through the proteas and the keck-kecking guinea fowl to admire False Bay, christened by indignant seamen who mistook it for Table Bay at the northern end of our peninsula. It was a happy fact that if you visited the Cape, you were never far from the mountains or the sea, even if you couldn't quite identify your whereabouts. And it didn't matter if you were rich or poor. They swelled your heart with a bursting pride. The mountains even put up with the white-painted towns that spread up their slopes or pressed against the shore with tarmac fingers. We lived in one such town close to the spiny tip of the peninsula. Keep going south, Pa would bellow cheerily, and say hello to Antarctica. Who is our town named after? My first-grade teacher used to ask. Simon van der Stel, we chanted, rolling our eyes at the obvious answer. Who in the world wouldn't know that? The first governor of the Cape. When I woke in the mornings, instead of running into Ma and Pa's bedroom and worming into bed with them for a cuddle, I'd climb onto the table by the window in our cramped sitting room to make sure the sea was where it had been the day before and hadn't been stolen from me in the night. After all, the water rose and fell, and sometimes drowned the sand completely, or pounded against the rocks and frightened the boys out of their belly flops. Wind, that livelier version of the breath that passed between my lips, seemed to be responsible for a lot of this erratic behavior. It whipped the swells into towering crests and drove salt spray into your eyes to make them sting. When the sea and the wind joined forces like this, it was time to bolt the door of the cottage.